We haven't done anything. We're all good. We haven't missed anything. So we're going to start with Senate Bill 166 with Senator Walt Stryker's bill. I see that message up there. That good? Good. Okay. So Alexis, why don't you tell us about Senate Bill 166?
All right, Senate Bill 166, Housing and Community Development, Adaptive Reuse, requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to notify applicants for loans through DHCD's programs of the fact that adaptive reuse for redevelopment of affordable multifamily housing is an eligible use of those loan funds. There are sponsor amendments included that tailor the notice requirement so that notification of adaptive reuse being a potential qualifying use of funds only applies to housing specific programs. DHC advises that this can take the pressure off of employees who distribute loan funds because of the breadth and connection between housing potential projects and infrastructure and additional development projects.
Any questions from for Alexis on these amendments that she just described? Okay. Well, seeing none, move the amendments. Yes, Senator Carosa.
Sorry, are these amendments addressing, I saw the Chesapeake Physicians for Social Responsibility. Mm-hmm. Is this the?
So I looked over there.
It said favorable with amendments, is that?
Yeah, I think it was kind of tailored towards a separate bill. So I think that may have been uploaded erroneously when I took another look. It was addressing rental assistance. So I don't think those are applicable for us. Oh, sorry. So I don't think though their testimony is getting to the bill in this instance. It was talking about a separate topic.
Okay, any additional questions for Alexis on the amendments? Senator Washington has moved those amendments. Is there a second on the amendments? Senator Lewis Young. Okay. Again, I'm going to restate vote counts from this point forward. All in favor of these amendments that have been proffered, raise your hand. All opposed? Those amendments carry unanimously. Got the bill as amended in front of us. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Brooks, second. Senator Washington, did you raise your hand? Yes. Okay. Again, all in favor of Senate Bill 166 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, that bill carries unanimously. Next up from Baltimore City, and I understand we had a delegation letter delivered to us today, Senate Bill 371.
Senate Bill 371, Baltimore City Commercial Use Definition. This local bill defines commercial use in Baltimore City to include multifamily residential development located within a waterfront commercial district and within a 0.50 mile radius of a commuter rail station. There are no amendments to the bill.
Senator Washington, anything you want to add about the bill before we vote?
It's just, again, it's just to expand some definitions about what the what our zoning board can zone. That's my understanding. It's adding or actually, yeah, it's adding to the existing land use definitions of to commercial use being waterfront, being housing. Right now, what we're talking about is the inner harbor development. And right now, I guess there's a certain definition of what's allowable there. And we want to be able to allow housing as well. That's my understanding.
Any questions for other Senator Washington or Alexis? Okay, there are no amendments. So do you want to, as our Baltimore City representative here, do you want to move the bill? Okay, all in favor of the bill, Senate Bill 371, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. Next. Okay, next up, we have a withdrawn bill. Anybody want to move to accept that withdraw / unfavorable? Senator Lewis Young, Senator Kagan, all in favor of supporting that withdrawal from Senator Hedelman, raise your hand. All opposed. Okay, that carries. So Senate Bill 419 is unfavorable / withdrawn. Senator Elfreth, Senate Bill 650. April.
All right, Senate Bill 650, Public Safety State Disaster Recovery Fund. We are secondary on this bill, so this passed the Budget and Tax Committee unanimously with amendments that I will describe shortly. This bill establishes the State Disaster Recovery Fund administered by the Department of Emergency Management. Beginning in fiscal 2025, the governor must include in the annual budget bill sufficient appropriation to bring the minimum balance of the fund to at least $20 million at the start of each fiscal year as specified. The committee amendments actually strike that piece, so forget the mandatory appropriation. The budget and tax amendments appear on page 3 of your voting packet. The reprint starts on page 7. These amendments strike the required $20 million mandated appropriation. They abolish the existing catastrophic event account and require a fund balance transfer to the newly created State Disaster Recovery Fund. It is my understanding that this will result in the new fund having about $10 million transferred into it. The amendments maintain the functions of the catastrophic event accounts in the new fund, including the ability for the governor to transfer funds by budget amendment to units of state government, the ability for the governor to transfer funds to the federal government shutdown employee assistance fund if there is a federal shutdown. I would add, not reflected in the version of the amendments in your voting packet, but they were part of the full official budget and tax amendments. They also added the entire committee as co-sponsors on the bill.
Okay, any questions, Senator Kagan?
Thank you. April, I'm reading this fast because the amendments are long. The fund is under MDEM, I'm assuming, or where is it actually housed?
Yes, it is under MDEM.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Senator Carozza.
Yeah, I was actually asking my colleagues, since Senator Hester's been involved in these issues before. I'm just trying to understand what fund currently exists, is what we're doing with a quote public safety state disaster recovery fund. So I'm trying to, I guess, understand the history in order to understand the bill now.
Yeah, I'll let Senator Hester, because I don't know a ton about the background of this since we were
So-
secondary.
Just for the context for the bill, it's very difficult, even when there is either a state or a federal emergency, for our constituents to access state funds quickly. And so I talked about this with a sponsor like a year ago, and the result was that she had a working group, and this bill came out of that working group. And the intent is that in the case where they can't get fast enough, federal relief, then there is state money available. The way she explained it to me today on the floor is that this other fund that exists is currently not being used. And I think part of it is because it takes so long. I mean, just having experienced 2 floods myself, I know how long it takes to get, immediate relief. But so I think they're moving the money from the older fund into the newer fund. They're making the newer fund do more than the older fund did, but inclusive of it. Is that about right?
And are they both under emergency management?
Yeah.
Both of the funds are?
Right, but again, the amended bill gets rid of the old fund. It sort of subsumes the old fund into the new fund. And if you look on at the testimony from the bill hearing, MDEM sort of came in and said that this older fund, it isn't very nimble. It's not really responsive to their needs following an emergency. So the idea is to have this new fund be a little more flexible.
And MML and MACO both support it.
And then the bill changed in which way?
So the bill change was getting rid of a mandatory appropriation. The original bill just set up this new fund and had a mandatory appropriation. The amendments, instead of doing the mandatory appropriation, they take this older fund that was sort of underutilized, get rid of the older fund, but transfer the balance into the new fund and expand the new fund to cover all those things that the older fund were also supposed to be doing.
So the bill now has more flexibility that whatever the disaster might be and wherever it might be, that we can adjust as opposed to just stick to a mandate.
Yes, that's the idea.
Okay. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Okay, anybody else want to be a co-sponsor?
So
Um,
can I just
yeah,
just to suggest, potentially we could do that as a floor amendment, because if
Right.
we amend the
Or
bill,
secondary,
it has
right.
to.
right.
So
let's-
I'm happy to draft a floor amendment for the committee that would just add everybody
yeah,
as
don't forget, we're not
as a
the,
co-sponsor.
we're secondary, so the floor leader.
No, but
will make
it
the
won't
amendment.
slow it down if we do it on the floor.
Right, right.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. You have a question or do you have a?
I'll join.
Okay, anybody want to be on the floor amendment that's a co-sponsor floor amendment? Raise your hand.
All right, hold on.
Okay, we've got Brooks, Carosa,
Kagan.
Watson, Kagan,
Young.
Lewis Young. Anybody else? Simon Air. Okay,
So I have Carosa, Kagan, Brooks, Watson, Lewis Young, and Simon Air. Did I miss anybody? Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
that'll be again in a floor amendment from B and T when they take this bill to the floor. But in the meantime, we have to adopt the amendments, don't we? So there's,
favorable.
yeah. Move.
Amendments.
We have a second from Senator Brooks. Any further questions on the amendments before we proceed? Okay, all in favor of these B and T amendments, raise your hand. All opposed, those amendments carry unanimously. We have the bill as amended in front of us. Is there a motion?
Move favorable.
Favorable from Senator Kagan, a second from Senator Hester. All in favor of this legislation, Senate Bill 650 as amended, raise your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. We will send it back to B&T communicating that. Next up, we've got Senate Bill 735, Senator Zucker.
Senate Bill 735, work group to study the wages of education support professionals. EEE is secondary on this bill. It was originally in the Budget and Tax Committee. This bill establishes the work group to study the wages of education support professionals staffed by the Maryland State Department of Education and determining the percentage of professionals that earn a living wage in the state and to study increasing the wages of professionals to attract and retain skilled workers. The work group must consider specified matters. The work group must submit an interim report to specified committees of the General Assembly and make a final report with findings and recommendations by August 31, 2024. B&T voted this favorable with amendments. That amendment only adds co-sponsors. I will note that this was similar to SB 831 of 2022. However, the House struck the work group part of that bill, and that's why it's back.
Okay, again, we're a secondary on this one. This is a B&T matter. They added co-sponsors. Anybody have a problem with their co-sponsor amendments? Anybody want to be added as a co-sponsor from this committee for purposes of a floor amendment? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the co-sponsor amendment, B&T amendments, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Now we've got the bill in front of us as amended. Senate Bill 735. Is there a motion? Move favorable, Senator Watson. Is there a second? Senator Augustine. All in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, the bill carries unanimously in its amended form. Next up, Senator Hester, Senate Bill 783. This one, we're first, and it's B&T that's in the second spot. So I guess we'll still need to get B&T sign off on this one. So go back to Alexis.
So this actually may be something that can quickly be considered because it was listed erroneously. B&T considered it, they moved it favorably without those amendments. So we're actually good to report this one to the floor. So this should be an easy decision.
Okay, well, before we do that, are there any amendments or their discussion? We have,
But so, sorry, so
sorry.
we considered this one yesterday with
Oh,
the
we-
amendments. Right.
we
So this
considered,
is the
yeah.
tax credit bill.
It did look familiar to me.
Right. So.
So I didn't want to admit that. I thought, I don't
Yeah,
want you to
sorry,
lose
I could make
confidence in
clearer.
it.
I could've
Okay,
been
so
clearer.
we're good?
They signed off on it, approved our amendments, and so we can take it to the floor whenever.
Okay, okay, we're good to go. Let's go next to that Baltimore City, Baltimore County water issue.
All right, Senate Bill 880, Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force. This emergency bill establishes the Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force to review specified findings, assess alternative governance structures for the Baltimore region's water and wastewater utility, analyze the fiscal implications and efficiencies of each alternative governance structure, and make recommendations regarding the governance model best suited for water and wastewater systems in the Baltimore region and the legislation and funding necessary to establish the recommended model. There are amendments in your voting packet on page 12, being offered by Senator M. Washington. The amendment would add language expressing the intent of the General Assembly that the task force strengthen and govern the governance of the Baltimore region's water and wastewater utility as a public asset managed and operated by local government.
Okay, on those amendments, Senator Washington, those are your amendments. So do you want to just add anything to what April said?
Just to add to another task that that water and wastewater utilities across the state are local governments, and then to just maintain that the task force continues that preference. So that's the purpose of it.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendments?
Oh, yes, they wanted me to do it.
This is one also, we denied both County Executive Oshevsky and Mayor Scott from testifying under our very strict, no exception, except we did have an exception yesterday.
Yes.
Sponsor only, but the County Executive was sat in the audience.
Yeah, I should have led with that.
Yeah.
The sponsors of the bill wanted to make sure that the intent of the task force was to address governance and maintenance, and that's it.
Okay, would you like to move those amendments?
And move it.
Okay, second, Senator Brooks, Baltimore County. All in favor of the amendments, raise your hand. All opposed, those carry unanimously. Senate Bill 880 as amended before us. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Brooks and Senator Washington is a second. All in favor, the bill as amended, raise your hand. Senate Bill 880 as amended carries unanimously. I'm going to go next to Senator Simoner's bill, Senate Bill 911.
Senate Bill 911, Natural Resources, Fishing Licenses and Stamps Exemptions. This bill authorizes the Department of Natural Resources to issue an annual recreational fishing license exemption to a governmental entity or a nonprofit organization to provide fishing clinics and instructional opportunities to specified individuals. It also allows the individuals to participate in the clinics and instructional opportunities without being licensed. Bill also alters a reporting requirement that applies to the bill's exemption as well as an existing exemption.
See there are amendments? No?
There are no amendments now.
Okay, we have no amendments in front of us on the bill. Senator Simoner, anything to add? Okay, I've got a favorable motion, a second for Senator Augustine. All in favor, Senate Bill 911, clean, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. Next up, Senate Bill 951 from our Howard County Senators. Stacy.
Senate Bill 951, Howard County Board of Education Terms and Public Campaign Financing. This bill alters the terms of the members of the Howard County Board of Education so that the terms of office of the 5 members elected from a councilmanic district are staggered, and the terms of office for the 2 members elected at large are staggered as specified. The bill also authorizes the governing body of Howard County to establish by law a system of public campaign financing for its members of the County Board of Education. However, the system may not be implemented until the 2026 election. There is one amendment. It's on the last page of your packet from Senator Lamb. And this amendment strikes all the provisions relating to public campaign financing for Board of Education candidates. Okay. And we do have a local letter approving this with the amendment.
Okay.
It does staggering for the Board of Education members. So right now they might be elected on the same cycle, and this would basically put the 5 members from councilmanic districts at different times and the 2 members elected at large from different times.
Great.
Okay.
We should do that.
Senator Kagan.
We should do
Okay, any Senator Hester as our joint Howard County, Montgomery County representative? Okay, move the
Second.
amendment. Second from Senator Kagan. All in favor of the amendment? Oh, yes, question from Senator Carozza.
All the campaign financing from the bill.
Yes, it strikes all the language relating to allowing Howard counties to establish local public campaign financing for candidates for Board of Education.
Could you put your mic? Yeah, mic.
So when I talked to Chair Lamb yesterday, I asked him, I was like, well, I mean, this is still good because it gives us the continuity on the Board of Education. It also is going to take, it would have taken until 2026. So should there be in the future the opportunity to get public financing, it wouldn't hit the county's finances all at one time.
Okay, do we vote on the amendment yet? Okay. Okay, we have the amendment moved by Senator Hester in front of us. It was seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Amendment carries unanimously. Got the bill 951 as amended in front of us. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. You moved it? Oh, did we move it? Second, apologize, jumping ahead here. A motion from Senator Washington, a second from Senator Gallion.
Yeah.
All in favor of Senate Bill 951 as amended? That bill carries unanimously. And to the final bill, Senate Bill 353 from Senator Washington. And we're going to go to Stacy.
Senate Bill 353, Higher Education Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program alterations. This bill increases the amount that the governor must include for the Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program in the annual budget bill to 1.5 million rather than 150,000 beginning in fiscal 25. To be eligible for a grant, an eligible institution must pledge at least 25,000 in cash or in-kind contributions. The Maryland Higher Education Commission must allocate each first-time recipient between 50 and 150,000 for specified programmatic and organization building activities. The bill also allows the commission to retain 15% of each grant to administer the program. Finally, the bill expands data that must be reported. There is one amendment, as you can see from the sponsor, Senator Washington, and this amendment decreases the mandated appropriation beginning in fiscal year 25 to 225,000 per year from the 1.5 million in the bill. Further, it decreases the amount of the initial grant from 25,000 from 50,000.
Okay, well, it's now not 1.5 million, it's under the $250,000 number. In any event, is that the only amendment? Okay, move that. Okay, be
It's under the
budget
amount,
entire,
yes.
okay, fine. You move the amendment? Is there a second? Or Augustine? All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Okay, we now have Senate Bill 353 in front of us as amended. Any discussion? Is there a motion? Moves the bill. Is there a second? Senator Augustine? All in favor of the bill as amended, Senate Bill 353, raise your hand. All opposed, that bill carries unanimously. And with that, that concludes our work for today.
Amazing.
We'll see you at